Hey everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Sandman Shane Spoody, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And today we're talking about my current favorite wrestling promotion, Ring of Honor. So, um, Jeff, I don't know if you've been following Ring of Honor television lately, but it feels a lot to me like we used to like about NXT. You know, where there's two or three matches, you don't get the same people every single week, you get high stakes every single week, and they're always building to something. It feels so. I think that's why Ring of Honor I'm enjoying so much right now is that it feels like I don't. It's not a huge time commitment. Nothing drags, and you don't get you know the same people every single week on the show. You know,
Well, there's one thing about wrestling that it used to be that a weekly wrestling television show was used to set up the pay-per-view 3 months from now.
right?
Somewhere in the 90s, we got away from that and it all became about the weekly shows. And
Yep.
I think that is where wrestling took a bad turn. That's where things got a little bit uh, wonky, I guess, in the way that wrestling is viewed. And it's nice that there's still a promotion out there just doing a 1 hour weekly show.
Yep.
I mean, even Impact and AEW, it's more about their TV show than their pay-per-views.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of that NXT really suffered from that when they went to a 2 hour program.
I agree. It did feel like an NXT that you would build. I mean, they would have like their big show with like a big match like every month or so. It wouldn't be like they were building towards like a pay per view quality. Uh, like for instance, like
Weekly.
Dynamite, like right now they're building. Yeah, Dynamite like right now is building towards Fighter Fest, right? Or I think it's Fighter Fest.
Actually, it's Road Rager next week because that's their first week on the road.
Okay, so it's Road Rager, but also that's right. That's what they're calling it now is Road Rager. Okay, so it's like a 2 week special event kind of thing, right?
Fighter Fest is coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's a 2 week.
Okay,
So
that's what it
yeah,
was. Okay. But
but regardless,
and it's not that there's not big matches on Ring of Honor, but they don't like build to them,
no,
necessarily. You know, um,
no,
eh,
that's one thing about AEW we've had a problem with is that their turnaround is so quick. They have to have pay-per-view quality shows every single week that they don't let storylines breathe. So it gets announced Jungle Boy is number one contender because he won a battle royal and he gets his title shot 2 weeks later. There's no real build to the actual match.
right. Whereas this coming week on Ring of Honor, this show that debuts on Monday, you could argue that it's building to a big show, but at the same time, I should say I said Monday, but I mean it's actually that it actually would have debuted before the show comes on the air. Um, but there have been two things that they've been kind of building. Like, Jonathan Gresham is 9-0 now in pure division matches, right? And Fred Yehi has been kind of like climbing up the ranks, and he won a gauntlet to eventually get a title shot for that, or to put himself in the top three of the pure division and get a title shot. And now he is getting a shot at Jonathan Gresham on this week's Ring of Honor coming in. But it's not, and I both love Brady from MLW and stuff, so it's nice to see
Mm-hmm.
him getting some shine. Um, but that's not the main event of the show. The main event of the show is Jay Briscoe versus Mark Briscoe fight on the farm. So
Fight on the farm.
fight on the farm.
So the Briscoes are feuding again. I
Well,
think I knew that, but
they've never really settled it. I mean, Mark's basically been mad at Jay ever since Final Battle. And um, they've like tried to come back together as a team a couple of times. Um, Mark beat Jay by count out on the 500th TV special.
right.
That's been for the 500 TV special, and then they came back together for a tag team match against EC3 and the mercenary, Flip Gordon. and
Well, the
Gordon hit hit Mark with a chain to win the match. Now EC3 didn't know that he had done it, so that built up to another match for best in the world. But Jay's like, well, Mark, you should have ducked. So,
well, I mean, I thought the 500th episode was a friendly get together between the two. I thought at Final Battle when Mark was Mark, did he team up with Beer City Bruiser or was it Brian Malonis?
it was fuck. It was
I thought it was one of the bouncers for some reason.
no, it was the monster guy. Can't fucking think of his name. Jean Paul, the guy that used to be Jean Paul Lafitte.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can't think of his name. PCO. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But regardless, I thought, and he was a little butthurt there, but when the 500th episode came, it felt more like it was just a friendly battle between brothers.
Yeah, and Jay even said this week on YouTube. He's like, Mark, I let you win at the 500th anniversary special, but when it comes, right. but when I'm playing on the farm, I'm gonna knock you smooth out.
Nice. So what do we got going on here in Best of the World? Because that's kind of.
Well, those two matches are also going to play a factor into it. And unfortunately, Jeff, this year Best of the World is on a Sunday. So they're going. So ROH is now going to their pay-per-views on Sundays as well. Hopefully, this will be a trend. But
I like the Friday and Saturday pay-per-views.
I do too.
I really, really like them. In New Japan, we can't really count on them because they could just throw a pay-per-view on a Tuesday and be okay with it.
Right.
But there's the two things we could always count on was AEW and their Saturday nights, Ring of Honor and their Friday nights.
Yep. Yep, but instead, we've got to watch it on. We don't have to watch it on Sunday, but the show is on Sunday now. So and their shows always start anyway. So assuming that starts at 7 o'clock our time, that's going 4 hours. We're up till like 11 o'clock, and I got to get up the next morning and start a training class. It's not exactly my idea of a fun time. So
no. And that's the other thing too. If they'd stuck to their 2.5 to 3 hour pay-per-view time, Sunday nights would be fine. But when every pay-per-view is pushing 4 or 5 hours now, which that just blows me away too. But
yeah, it's been announced as 4 hours, and the two matches on the pre-show are. So there was a match between. Well, there was. You haven't been following the rookie show, right, Jeff?
No, I've checked it out here and there, but I haven't been steadily following any wrestling.
Okay, so they've had Survival of the Fittest going on, where they had their 12 competitors, first round matches, and then the final 6 went to the elimination gauntlet as per usual Survival of the Fittest. And one of those matches in the first round was Infinite Eli Isom taking on Dak Draper. And when those two guys were facing each other, Dalton Castle came down with his flock of like 5 or 6 boys, and he was out there kind of distracting both of them. And Isom ended up getting the win on the distraction, and then Dalton kicked him in the nuts. And Isom was like, well, obviously these two guys have something going on against each other. And somehow, I'm not exactly sure how, because I've been following it. I didn't see how this happened, but somehow all 3 of those guys ended up coming together, and now they are going to challenge. I'm sorry, this is actually not on the pre-show, so I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. But those 3 guys are going to be challenging the 6-man champs, Shane Taylor Promotions, for the 6-man on the show.
Okay.
So that'll probably be a decent match, but it's a little bit odd.
So they've only got five matches announced for it.
Correct, but one of the reasons for that is whatever happens with the Briscoes is going to set up something else. Yes. Also, the World Tag Team Champions, Red Titus and Tracy Williams, have challenged members of Violence Unlimited to a fight without honor on the show. So that has not been confirmed yet, but we'll probably see something like, who are the two members that are not don't already have a match? So it would be Homicide and Chris Dickinson probably. So Homicide and Chris Dickinson will probably be challenging for the tag titles in a fight without honor on the show as well. I'm assuming that it'll be confirmed on week by week on YouTube, or it'll be confirmed on ROH television on Monday.
When is the show? It's next Saturday.
Next Sunday, July 11th.
Okay.
Yep.
So looking at this, Josh Woods versus Silas Young is one I'm looking forward to.
Yep.
Lethal and King, Brody King, and EC3 and Flip Gordon. Those three matches, all three look really fun. When did Tony Deppen win the television championship?
He won it like 2 weeks after Tracy Williams won it. He was Tracy Williams' first title defense, and he beat Williams with a trap pin.
Oh, because I like Tony Deppen. I guess I didn't realize that he'd been pushed that far so fast.
And then Deppen defended the television title against both Williams and Dragon Lee as being the two former champions. Neither one of them had gotten a rematch, right? So he defended the title against them last week on Ring of Honor, and in a triple threat. And when the referee and Deppen both had their backs turned, Dragon Lee kicked Tracy Williams right in the nuts, and then backed off so Deppen could roll in and hit a roll up on him. And he just stood back and waited, let him pin him. And then that kind of turned into a little bit of a brawl. But then Kenny King came out with LaBestia in the backstage area as Dragon Lee was walking to the back, and he said, "This all went according to plan. You don't understand. You know, the strategy for tonight was not to win the match; it was to not lose the match." So now Dragon Lee didn't get pinned. He is the number one contender for the television championship. So if you've got any guts, you'll put that title on the line against Dragon Lee at best. So he's like, no, wait. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, you will put the title on the line against Tony Deppen. Against Dragon Lee at best in the world. When we're coming to your crib where your wife and your kid. And then Deppen's like, let's do it right now. And then Dragon Lee's like, oh, you want to go now? And then he started walking to the back, and then King goes, best in the world, but we're knocking on you. That was so. Jeff, at least watch that promo, because Kenny King was fucking on fire there. He is so much better right now as a member of La Faction Ingobernables than he has been the last few years. So.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Looking at this card, there's no foundation members. Roosh is the only one from what are they called? La Faction
Ingobernables. Yep.
Okay. Roosh is the only member of that on here. And there's no Briscoe, so obviously there's more matches coming.
Well, no, Dragon Lee's on there. Remember Dragon Lee's challenging?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep, you're right. Okay, yeah. So it looks like Kenny King's the only member of that faction that's not on there.
Yeah, and then Jay Lethal is there against Brody King, so there is a foundation member on.
Yeah, but who has the tag belts?
Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus.
Okay, good. So at least Tracy still has something.
And they threw out that challenge to Violence Unlimited for a fight without honor at Best of the World. So I'm still assuming that's going to be confirmed before Sunday.
More than likely.
Yeah. As far as Jonathan Gresham not being on the card, there's a reason for that as well. So remember he is defending the Pure title on Monday's show against Fred Yehi.
Right.
And All right, so I'm gonna say something that's gonna kind of shock. He's gonna be defending the championship. Well, I shouldn't say he will, but either Fred Yehi or Jonathan Gresham, whoever wins that pure match on Monday, would be defending the pure title against the worthy opponent for that championship who won a pure wrestling gauntlet on YouTube that I watched this morning, Mike Bennett.
Nice.
Yeah. And Gresham was doing commentary for that match along with Riccaboni and shit, I can't think of his. I lost his name at the moment, but the usual team, you know. And Gresham was fucking pissed. He was like, "What the hell is Mike Bennett doing in a pure wrestling gauntlet? This guy has never fought with honor at all, you know, all that kind of stuff." And but Bennett actually won the gauntlet, and he won the last leg of the gauntlet without having any rope breaks available to against PJ Black. So.
I am so confused right now, and I'm sorry I don't mean to change the subject here, but I didn't realize that Brody King started a new foundation, uh, and that's Violence Unlimited. And then I'm looking at this going, trying to figure out who the members are, Homicide, Dickinson, and Tony Deppen, along with Brody King. But it says here that Dickinson is also a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling's show NJPW Strong, where he's part of Filthy, Tom Lawler's Team Filthy. That also includes Team Filthy, includes Dickinson, JR Kratos, and AEW's Danny Limelight. And then Lawler is also on MLW Wrestling with Team Filthy, that features King Mo, Kid Osborne, and Violence is Forever, Dominic Guarini and Kevin Koo.
Oh, okay.
Is Tom Lawler really that busy?
Well, we haven't been watching him in MLW, so I didn't notice that Team Filthy was a thing again over there, you know.
But he's also on NJPW Strong too.
Yeah, he's the NJPW Strong champion.
Is he?
Yeah.
I was unaware of this.
Yeah. So, if I was unlimited formed at the end of the last pay-per-view, I actually don't remember that.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah, there was that world title match between Lethal and Roosh, and then at the end of that match, they all got attacked by this new stable led by Brody King.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember that.
Okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe my memory's better than yours.
It has to be lately. It's not been good.
Yeah,
but
so
I don't know.
So I mean, I know you're looking at this part and you're like, okay, well, these three matches look good to me, but really everything on here has been built up really well.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I haven't been like religiously watching any program. I've been kind of checking them out here and there. But with Ring of Honor only being an hour long, maybe I'll go back and watch like the last month and a half of shows.
Yeah, that's
it's
probably
funny.
A good idea. I mean,
because
Lethal and King, I mean, really about like on the last like three shows. So it's kind of interesting that that's like one of the big matches on there. But at the same time, you know, it is faction versus faction, and two main guys in the factions against each other. You know,
it is funny because I can watch 2 months worth of shows in the same amount of time it would take to watch Raw, NXT, and Dynamite.
No, you could watch 6 weeks worth of shows.
Yeah, roughly 7, actually, because Raw's a 3-hour show.
Okay, that's true. And then Bandito's getting the title shot against Roosh because he won Survival of the Fittest. So,
okay,
yeah. So that's where that's coming from. Is I think it's a little bit odd. I mean, when I looked at the members of Survival of the Fittest, I'm like, okay, so, you know, Chris Dickinson's a possibility, right?
Right.
Red Titus is probably not going to win, even though that would have been my preference for Red Titus to win, because he's probably defending the tag titles. And then then Brian Johnson, as much as I love him, you know, was not going to be in that finals against Roosh yet. I didn't think Demonic Flamita was going to win. Call me crazy. And then I can't remember who the who the fifth person was, but Bandito seemed like the obvious person to win that match, and he did end up. So.
What does Brian Johnson call himself?
The Mecca.
The Mecca. Okay, yeah, he's one of my favorite characters in wrestling total, not just in Ring of Honor and all of wrestling.
Yep, and when he finally wins the championship, we're gonna be in for a decade of excellence.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Brian Johnson's a lot of fun to watch the ring, guys. If you guys have not watched any of his matches, I would definitely look forward. I would definitely recommend watching his matches, listening to his promos. He's a great promo, and I just love his style. I love his style.
I like his attitude. I like his demeanor. He's to me a five-star player. He's a guy that I'm blown away has been overlooked by everybody as long as he has, because this guy is just incredibly talented.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the same thing about Bandito actually. Bandito, I mean, it's tough on the promo side because he doesn't speak great English. He does speak English, but not great English, and a lot of his stuff has to be translated into from Spanish to English or Mexican to English, right. Whatever. But as far as being
in the ring, Spanish.
But as far as being in the ring, he's outstanding.
Yeah, Bandito's a lot of fun to watch. But that's one of the things. Like Roosh, I don't understand the fascination with Roosh. I've never liked his style. I've never liked his. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Roosh, and I don't.
I guess with Roosh, the thing is that he just has this aura, right? I mean, he's got this aura of invincibility about him. He's got this incredible arrogance that translates to this amazing charisma to him. And he really is great when he actually stays inside the ring and wrestles. But my biggest thing about him is that fucking Michinoku or Minoru Suzuki style he has, where he's just gonna hit people with chairs and choke them out shit outside the ring, and the referees don't do shit about it. I mean, they do shit about him. They don't disqualify him. He doesn't get fined. Well, I guess technically, Lux Ingoramwe did get suspended for a month off television, but at the same time, you let this guy keep running the rules all the time. You never don't take the title away from him, any of that kind of stuff. So,
right.
It feels like nobody as much as like the referees are like counting him and yelling at him. The announcers are always like, "Well, this guy's terrible." Nobody in the main office is. So.
Well, I think the biggest reason why I'm not a fan of his is because the two standout matches that come to mind when I think of Roosh is his 3-second victory over Dalton Castle and that awful match he had against PCO where PCO got jump started by a car.
Yeah, that's true.
I honestly, for the life of me, cannot remember another Roosh match that I saw that I can actually even remember who his opponents were. So, when two of the worst matches in the history of the world are what I affiliate him with, it's tough for me to. And like I said, I guess I just don't like his style. I don't like that bullhorn kick or whatever the hell they call it. I'm not a fan of his. Just not at all.
It's just called the horns, actually. But yeah, I do get that, Jeff. But I do think in the ring he's absolutely outstanding. I just think when he gets to that bullshit where he's, like I said, when he's doing the cables and the chairs, it turns my stomach so bad.
It works for Suzuki.
And he has, and actually he's had he had 2 great matches in December of last year, one against Brody King and one against Shane Taylor, and he had that great match against or a really good match against not Jonathan Gresham, but Jay Lethal at the anniversary show. I mean, I understand why. Like, I don't think you actually watched this with Shane Taylor, but I can understand why the other matches just slip your memory if you just can't You get those other two things out of your mind.
It's hard to get that PCO jump started by a car out of my mind. That is just, I don't know that I will ever get that out of my head.
And speaking of Matt Taven, I really, I really don't know where they're going anymore with him, and what how they're ever going to end this thing between him and Vinny. You would have thought it would have ended at that huge brawl they had at the anniversary show, and they would have just ended up transitioning him out of that. But no, I mean, even though there's been this mandate that they can't touch each other, Vinny is still pulling all the strings behind the scenes on him. And Taven even had this promo recently before he fought against Dutch in a match on Ring of Honor television that he's like, I begged him, I tried talking to him, and they tried telling me we need to move on in our careers, and nothing seems to be working. And he goes, this is normally where I would say that whole, I am, he is I and I am him. I met him. I can't even do that shit anymore. He's like, I'm just so depressed, and it's just to the point where now I really don't know, where they can pull this out. I mean, I have faith in Dustin Johnson's booking. He's done so well over the years, but at the same time, this just feels like, where can they go with this? They've already had fights with honor against each other. They've already had this huge brawl in the empty arena and stuff. It's like, what are they ever going to do to be able to end this thing? It sounded like Taven was like, it's not going to be over till one of us is out of Ring of Honor. Well, they're not going to, unless they do something like they did with Kevin Steen and El Generico, where, 10 years ago, where one guy is out for a year and then finally gets their way back in. I don't know what they're going to do, because it's not like they're going to get rid of Matt Taven. He signed the biggest contract they've ever done with a professional wrestler. And getting rid of Vinny at this point would just be ridiculous. So I don't know what
one of the worst things they did was turn Matt Taven face and have him in this 3-year, 2.5-year feud with Vinny.
Seems that way, at least, yeah.
It's
year and a half.
Because it started right before the pandemic, didn't it? It didn't start at Final Battle when.
Yeah, he turned on him like October of 2019, and they had their match at Final Battle. So I think we're looking at about a year and a half.
Yeah, well, we're closing in on 2 years. I mean,
we're closing
July,
on 2 years, absolutely.
Yeah, he was on top of the world. Like, he was probably one of my favorite characters in wrestling when he was a world champion. He was, and he was the badass leader of the kingdom, Matt Taven. Once he turned face and Vinny turned on him, he has not been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, I got someone here to do an estimate on my windows. I didn't realize it was 10 o'clock already. Shit. Hold on a second.
All right, guys, we're back. A little bit of a technical intro. Well, not technical, a little bit of a personal life interruption there. So
a timing issue happened.
Yes, indeed. So the other match I think I didn't mention is that there is there's actually 2 matches on the pre-show. There's PCO and Danhausen taking on the Bouncers, and Monica Flamita taking on Ray Horace in the other one. So, we talked about how this, how Ring of Honor or our pay-per-views also. They used to be 2.5 to 3 hours. I think you could easily skip hour 1 of this show and not miss too much. So I might just end up doing that to not be bothering watching those 2 matches, or maybe watching it down the pike later on. So
in the anniversary show, the EC3 Jay Briscoe match was the match of the night.
Yeah.
You think EC3 pulls that off with Flip Gordon?
Fuck yeah. I think he can. I mean, looking at this card, I personally think Magneto versus Bruce is going to be fantastic as long as it stays in the ring. Deppen versus Dragon Lee was great the first time around. I don't know why it wouldn't be this time.
Right.
Young versus Woods in a last man standing is going to be great. Lethal versus Brody King is going to be great. And then whether it's Yehai or I really feel like Mike Bennett feels like he has something to prove right now because watching him in the Scotland match I watched this morning, watching him and Taven take on the tag champions in a tag title match, those were great. Bennett was great both. So, a guy that I've never really thought was very good at all, it's really started to turn my head a little bit. So,
Well,
I'm enjoying him right now, while I'm not going to see that I think that Mike Bennett has a chance to have the best match of the night, I think that's something I'm looking forward to as well. Then you got the fight without honor for the tag title. So it's hard for me to look at this card and be like, yeah, this match is definitely the match of the night. I think pretty much any match on this show has the chance to steal the show.
Well, Mike Bennett is that guy that never has less than a 3-star match. Never has higher than a 4-star match. There are guys out there that you're always going to see a great match. They're great performers, but they're never going to give you maybe a one-off here and there, that 5-star classic. But you can count on him to never have less than a 3-star match.
Taven and Bennett against the Foundation for the tag titles is more than a 4-star match.
Oh, you think? Okay, maybe I'll have to watch that. But the thing with Mike Bennett is he does have a lot to prove. Ever since he left Ring of Honor the first time and dabbled a little bit in Impact, and he was decent in Impact, but once he got to WWE, his career was pretty much done. And now he's another one of those guys that I'm really happy finally got the release from WWE so he can go out and be the wrestler that he's always been, because he just was wasted in WWE along with a lot of talent.
If you have an hour, 50 minutes that you can devote to it, Jeff, I would recommend watching the Gauntlet match that I watched this morning because you'll see a different Mike Bennett than what you've seen before. And you can tell that he worked with Nigel when he was in WWE because he was doing Nigel McGuinness moves. Like he won 2 of his matches with the one judge, and he was actually doing some of the old Nigel arm work, focusing on the arm. So if he starts wrestling that style, then I'd be perfectly fine with him.
Okay. Yeah. What was that Gauntlet match? Was it from this week or?
It's from like a week ago. It's like labeled a special Gauntlet match basically. Okay. It's Will Ferrara, world famous CB is in there. Ryan Nova's back as Ryan Mooney, and that looks like it's gonna be a nice gimmick for him. You remember Ryan Nova at all?
Yeah, he's going by his real name now.
Yeah.
He used to be part of that group with what was it, Shinobi Shadow Squad or whatever, with Cheeseburger and Eli Isom. I'm glad to see him and Eli kind of break apart from that.
Yeah, me too. And Eli's been outstanding as well. So that's another thing. That's something about Ring of Honor being like NXT was before, is we've seen all these like young up and coming guys that they get a chance to not only make a first impression on you, but to keep growing as a character.
Right.
And you get to like a month, like even a month ago, I would have been like, I fucking hate Danhausen, and now he's growing up. Now I'm starting to enjoy him, and he's actually even doing a second character on there now too. So.
Oh dear God.
It's been on the Ring of Honor week by week, but he's doing this character called Rocco, where he's like kind of like an agent, but also like a motivational guy. Like he's like I will make you better if you sign with Rocco.
So he's doing kind of like a Sue Young and a Abyss type thing where he's playing 2 characters. One just
I don't think
crazy.
I except for I don't think you're supposed to know that.
Oh, we're not supposed to know that he's Danhausen?
I don't think we're supposed to know he's Rock.
Oh, okay. Well,
because he's wearing a hat and he's got like longer hair, which I'm assuming is a wig attached to the hat.
right.
You know, and then he doesn't wear he's not wearing his face paint, and but you can tell just by like his size and the way he talks that it's that it's him.
That it's Danhausen.
Yeah. So.
I hope that if it pulls off, because I don't know that it was ever done better. I mean, of course, Foley's the one that pulled it off the best, the three faces of Foley and all that stuff. Being able to come out with three separate characters and make them all great. But I don't know that this alter ego thing has ever been done better than Abyss.
I don't know. I really enjoyed the Hurricane Helm stuff too, where he was Gregory Helms and also he was also the Hurricane.
And then the reporter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually good though too. That I think the reason why it works so well with Abyss and Chris Parks is because they didn't acknowledge each other. Where Hurricane acknowledged Shane Helms, and Foley obviously acknowledged Dude Love and all that stuff. But the way that Chris Parks did it with Abyss and Chris Parks was there was no connection to the two of them. They were just completely separate people that didn't acknowledge each other.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's why if they pull this off right, it could be the best one since then.
Right. So guys, I would definitely check this out. Check out the show this coming Sunday night, and we'll have a review for it in 2 weeks because we're not going to be able to review it on Sunday night after before it goes off the air and have it up for you on Monday. But
yeah, it would have been nice if they did a Friday show so we could have watched it and done.
Yeah.
Oops. Anyway.
Agreed, but they didn't. So I don't. So I'm not sure what we're doing for next week's show, but we'll figure it out, and we'll be back with you next week for a wrestling show as well.
Well, here's the nice thing. Don't we have a Sinclair Honor that we can do next week?
We do. We can watch two ROH pay-per-views in the next 7 days. I'm fine with that.
So. Yeah, I mean, and the next one's Best in the World from 2012, right?
We did Best in the World, didn't we?
I don't remember.
I think we did. Yeah, we did Best in the World. So the next one would actually be Death Before Dishonor.
Okay. All right. Good. We get a little scum action happening, and then we get what is shaping up to be a really. I'm seriously. I'm going to go back and watch the last month and a half of Ring of Honor TV because just looking at this card, looking at the stars that they have, and seeing the way that they're fitting together, I have a feeling that I might be back into Ring of Honor as being one of my favorite programs again.
Yeah, I mean, there's things about that I don't like. Like they were talking about like all the people that have won Survival of the Fittest before. They never once mentioned Marty Scurll's name, and that kind of bugs me. And they've got this women's title tournament coming up this summer, and they've never once mentioned Kelly Klein's name. And that bugs me some. But if you're gonna stop watching a wrestling promotion because they do scummy things to their wrestlers at times, you're never gonna find a wrestling promotion to follow.
No.
So
yeah, and that it's still sad that Marty Scurll is nowhere. He's literally nowhere. And it bugs me because I still think Marty Scurll is one of the most talented people in the world. For him to not be signed with anybody
because he fought a 15-year-old girl in a country where it's legal to fuck a 15-year-old girl. Yeah, it's just that's ridiculous. So
and it's like with all the other people they did get work again. It just blows my mind that somebody like Marty Scurll can't.
Not only people that get working good, but Will Ospreay was the fucking NJPW heavyweight champion.
Right.
It's such a weird thing,
Right. Yeah, I agree. It just bugs me, to be honest.
And
I don't know that I'll ever get over it.
I don't know that it will either, especially when it feels like he doesn't even exist anymore,
Right. Yeah, and that's literally it. He just doesn't exist anymore.
Right. I mean,
and that's
go Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's kind of embarrassing, as as any kind of wrestling promotion to blackball somebody who didn't do anything illegal. Yeah, I mean, he admits it, transgression and everything, and had he known, it would have been a different situation and whatever, blah blah blah. But um, the fact that he's just blackballed when other people, like you said, Will Ospreay, uh, was the heavyweight champion. Who are some of the other people that got caught in that? And they're still. Jordan Devlin is another one that's still working. A lot of the guys are still working, but for Marty Skrull to not get anything just bugs me. Just
And,
absolutely
and
bugs me.
and I never was one of those. You and I have always been people that put aside like personal life, and we just care about the art and what they're doing, to entertain us, basically.
Right.
But I mean, but if I were to judge it, Will Ospreay's, you know, basically um, making sure another, a female wrestler wasn't ever going to work again because she made allegations against a friend of his of sexual assault, and is much much worse than Marty Skrull having
Right.
sex with a 15-year-old girl consensually, and
Where
again in
it's
that country
legal.
where it's not illegal, you know. So I don't get the double standard there, and I know two different wrestling promotions, but at the same time, Osprey was allowed to keep the Rev Pro World title for British Heavyweight Championship as well, and not
Right.
only formed his own faction in NJPW, but broke away and had one of the big matches like of Honor, and then was the first man to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So, and probably would still be the champion right now if he hadn't gotten injured. It's just
Well,
insane.
I think he would have lost it to Okada at Dominion anyway. But I think the reason he got stripped, well, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. He got stripped because they told him he could have time off. They closed down, canceled shows, and he was on his way back to England. And then they changed their mind and said, you have to stay in the country. We're still
I
going
don't
to
know, man. If he was going to lose to Okada anyway, why isn't Okada the champion? Why is it she?
I don't know.
You know.
But it did sound like that was the reasoning behind them stripping it, and that he was originally going to drop the belt to Okada, which is weird because, like you said,
I,
why
I think I think I think he, I think he was going to when he was injured. No, when he was injured, I don't think he was going to before he was injured. That's my take. I
probably.
think I think they were building for Will to hold the title for the rest of the year, Okada to win G1, and then for them to face each other for the championship again at Wrestle Kingdom. You know.
And I think outside of Osprey, the best choice that they've done, New Japan has done, was put the belt on Shingo. I, these two guys, Osprey and Shingo. I mean, Shingo is older, like quite a bit older. Isn't he almost 40? Yeah, he's 38 years old. Um, but him and Osprey could be main event feuds for years. They could be the main event feud like Okada and Tanahashi was. Was it 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that if you had told me, I don't know, a year ago, let's say a year ago, because they both happened in the last 12 months, that Evil and Shingo would both be IWGP Heavyweight Champion before Sonata was, I wouldn't
Good, very good point. Yeah, very good. I think if you had told me that 2 years ago, I think over the last year, Sonata has been a little bit down. But if you look at where both Shingo and Osprey came from, less than 2 years ago was when they started wrestling with the heavyweights. And I mean, Shingo made sense because he's got that build and everything. But Osprey going from a junior to a heavyweight, and just to see both those guys reach that kind of success is just I'm so happy for both of them, and I like the fact that we've got these two as the last two champions.
I do too. I just feared for Osprey just because he's had these huge neck injuries. This is his third one, I think, in 3 years, 3.5 years, and I just kind of feel like not only how much is New Japan going to be able to trust him to hold the championship, but also like, how much is it going to be smart for him to continue in pro wrestling as his career going forward? If this is the case, does he really want to be 45 years old in a wheelchair because he just kept on wrestling? His body just may not be cut out for doing it.
Well, he's definitely learned by changing his style a lot, like uh, Flip Gordon did. Flip Gordon, after his neck injury, completely changed his style. And yeah, he does still do a few flippy things, but nowhere near what he did before. And I think Ospreay, once he transitioned to heavyweight, has found a good meld of the two Ospreys, where he's
And
not.
and
When he
yet
first became a heavyweight, I was a little, and
and
yet he still
yet
got injured. Yeah.
yeah, and yet basically the match he took off his kinesio tape for because he was good, he
Yep.
injured his neck again.
Yeah, true. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't have anything else.
No, I don't either. But
Unless
no, yeah, no. This is supposed to be just a Ring of Honor preview for Best in the World. So,
it's never that way with us. I mean,
yeah.
we could probably go for another 2.5 hours talking about AEW, but we're not going to. So, guys, if you like this at any point, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell. Check out the other shows on our channel, and check out our Patreon if you get a chance. Patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. We're back with you on Wednesday to talk about Army of the Dead by Zack Snyder.
Yes.
And that's all we've got. Until then, this is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.